I was there, right? I was at the start. Was it there? Yeah, these are all definitely fun. How will each other
You've got sound on.
Please be upstanding for His Worship the Mayor of the London Borough of Hounslow, Councillor Rawinder Sidhu, accompanied by the Deputy Mayor and the Chief Executive.
Thank you. Be seated, please. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, councillors, officers, member of public, which include my mother as well today. Thank you. And those watching at home on YouTube or other social media. May I ask all the councillors, please put your phone off, not silent, because we are paid enough to attend this meeting. So this 3 hours you can stay away from your phone. Thank you very much. Member of public can tweet and not the councillors because you won't have a phone. I remind you all that debate will be through me and without an interruption, please. Point of order only on the basis of breaches of constitution or law. Finally, please turn on your microphone only until you have asked to speak, because when you put your microphone on, the cameras move towards you and the person who's speaking before you will not be seen on the camera. So please only put your microphone on when you're asked to do that. In recognition of sad news of the death of our late Queen Elizabeth II on 8th of September, and with the agreement of both political parties, I would like members to note that following changes to this evening's meeting. A period of up to 1 hour will be given at the beginning of the meeting for members from both parties to express their condolences and tributes. And then after that, Councillor Mishisho will submit his statements to the meeting immediately after the members' declaration of interest. There will be no questions or motions at this meeting. Any response to the questions from a relevant cabinet member will be circulated at the members to all the members and included with the record of this meeting. Members will note that some of the items being discussed at this evening meeting were postponed from the last council meetings in July, which was cancelled due to extenuating circumstances. All members will be conscious, therefore, of the need of complete of the business of this evening and to manage their contribution accordingly within the time constraints of the meeting. Thank you, and now we will move to agenda item first, please. Apologies of absence. I have 3 councillors: Sumina Nagra, Councillor Vikram Garewal, and Councillor McGregor. Anybody else? Yes.
Councillor Bandar Chopra for lateness.
Okay. Thank you. So all the members will have agenda in front of you. Any declaration of interest from any members? No, thank you. Agenda item 2, Councillor Ron Mashisho, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to speak. Mr. Mayor, I would like to correct the record with regards to the remarks that I made immediately following the shock announcement of the departure of the former council leader, Steve Curran, back in March 2022. In retrospect, Mr. Mayor, my remarks following his sad announcement were hasty and may have indeed come across as insensitive, given what I later learned as the true circumstance of his resignation. Mr. Mayor, I later had a good text exchange with the former leader and wished him well. And I have the deepest respect and admiration for Steve Curran. Indeed, we have a personal friendship that was forged long before I was elected in this chamber. That friendship continues today. And so, with your permission, I would like to withdraw and apologize for the remarks that I made at the last official Borough Council meeting in March 2022, and use this moment to formally wish former Councillor Steve Curran my best as he continues with his recovery from poor health. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. On behalf of all members of the Council, I would like to express our deepest condolences to His Majesty King Charles III and the royal family. Now, can I ask Leader of the Council, Councillor Shantanu Rajwat, to say a few words, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. As we mourn the passing of our late sovereign, it feels impossible to envision a Britain without her. Indeed, she was the only head of state I ever knew, and most of us in this room ever knew. Our thoughts are with the royal family during this deep and private loss. We share this grief. We've lost not just our monarch, but the matriarch of our nation. The Queen ruled for longer than any other monarch in British history, 70 years at the heart of British life, becoming a much loved and respected figure across the globe along the way. As we reflect upon her monumental life and reign, one of calm and selfless devotion to public service, I know she touched the lives of people across our communities, and it has been heartwarming to see so many people signing the books of condolence. Queen Elizabeth II was the embodiment of unity and the shared values that make Britain great. She was a fixed point in our lives, a figure of continuity when all around us was in constant flux. Everything has changed since the day in 1952 when she inherited the throne, but the one constant throughout that period was our sovereign. We owe her a tremendous debt of gratitude. It was very moving and quite incredible to see so many people lining the streets of West London just last week to say thank you to our Queen and pay their respects as she made her final journey to Buckingham Palace. She visited the Borough on several occasions during her reign, an immense shared privilege that we remembered with affection and gratitude by residents. In June, the Platinum Jubilee brought our communities together again in a united outpouring of admiration and gratitude to mark the Queen's remarkable service after the difficulties of the pandemic. These touching displays of emotion and unity in our borough will forever remain special to me. It's been an honor to attend and speak at so many memorial events across the borough from so many community groups, faith groups, and others. The outpouring of genuine grief has been so astounding, something I never expected to see in my lifetime, and I doubt I will encounter again. It was with an immense pride that we welcomed the funeral cortege through our borough yesterday as she made her final journey to Windsor. It was wonderful to see so many residents on our streets, but a special mention must be made of one, an ex-Indian Army veteran, 101 years old, waiting patiently wearing his medals with pride to acknowledge the passing of what was probably the cornerstone of his generation. For all she gave us throughout her reign, we say thank you. Queen Elizabeth was truly a remarkable monarch whose legacy will live on forever. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rajwat. Now, can I ask Councillor Peter Thompson, please, to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I declare before you that all my life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service. Those words the Queen said on her 21st birthday have been often repeated over the last few days. 75 years later, her family, the nation, and the Commonwealth, and the wider world have so fittingly and movingly recognised the way in which she kept to that declaration. We are all moved by our loss at her death. So many people I have spoken to, I'm sure all of us who have never met the Queen, have expressed a personal sense of loss simply because they had a sense of her presence and of the gifts that she brought with all those years of service. Some of us in this room will have had the wonderful honour of meeting Her Majesty, or in my case, seeing her a few times as a small figure in the distance. I can recall vaguely as a 10-year-old child dancing before her. I hasten to add, with tens of thousands of other children in Sheffield, when she visited our city as part of her Silver Jubilee celebrations, of seeing her pass along the Mall at the time of the royal wedding of her grandson, Prince William, and at the funeral of her mother. In 2009, I was honoured to be present on behalf of the local authority as Her Majesty the Queen and her husband, Prince Philip, officially opened Paragon House at the University of West London down the road in Brentford. Many commentators have highlighted the qualities of our Queen over the last few days. Let me just mention three. First and foremost was the way in which she was faithful to that promise, that declaration, day by day, year by year, to the very last. It is truly remarkable that on the Tuesday before she passed away, she was still fulfilling her duties as she appointed our new Prime Minister. Her faithfulness to public service is an example to us all, especially to those of us in this room who hold public office. The second quality that people have commented on was her kindness, that sort of twinkle in her eyes and that smile. She had that wonderful ability to welcome people and to make them feel at ease. For those of us who are sometimes fed up with this toxic world in which we live, she showed us there is another way. We don't have to close people down. We don't have to cancel people. We can try to see the goodness in everyone. And that's a crucial example for us all. And the third quality that at the moment we do need some more of is just that joy in life. I can remember the disbelief in 2012 when we were at a campsite somewhere in the middle of Austria, and my children were sat in a room with me and my wife and an Austrian family, and suddenly there appears James Bond and on the screen, and the Queen, and then the Queen apparently jumps out the parachute. Their face and the shock on the Germans' faces was one to remember. And I think it's also good to remember that what guided Her Majesty and shaped her life was her faith. She said that to many of us, our beliefs are of fundamental importance. Some of us share her faith. Many of us here tonight come from different faith traditions. Some of us have no faith traditions at all. We have different ways of understanding the world. But whatever your background, she was a wonderful example that there is a proper place for religion in the public realm. Over the last few days at my school, I've been trying to basically get across to the children for whom the Queen is a figure they're aware of, but they haven't had that time with her as we have, why they should take it on board, why they should be aware that this is history, this is important. And I suppose the best thing I could say to them, and the thing that I think resonated, was that throughout all that has happened in our country since 1952, and particularly in the last few years, the division after all the debates about Brexit, the issues to do with what we weren't expecting, a major war in mainland Europe, the issues to do with, the crisis with energy and all the rest of it, cost of living. She has been that constant presence, always there, always encouraging us by her example to do better. So in these days ahead, I think we'll still think of her fondly. And I suppose it's also appropriate that, as you said at the start, Mr. Mayor, we just, as a council, send our best wishes to Prince Charles, who after this very public period of mourning has now time to stop and reflect as he takes up the awesome responsibility of his role. We pray for Her Majesty the Queen, and God save the King.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Now we have 7 more speakers on this. Now can I request Councillor Lal to start, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for giving me this opportunity, and I apologize in advance for any repetition that may occur. It's an honor and a privilege to pay my respects and say a few words in tribute to Her Majesty. As a youngster, I had little or no understanding of what the monarchy really meant to me, let alone what it meant to other people. My first real awareness about the monarchy was upon entering Britannia Royal Naval College, where as a midshipman, I took an oath of allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen, and I learned of the historical connections to the monarchy. Although a constitutional monarch, Her Majesty was the head of the armed forces and was our commander-in-chief. She had a close personal relationship with the military, having served herself during World War II in the Auxiliary Territorial Services. And over the past few days, we have seen many former members of the armed forces pay their respects to say a final goodbye to their old boss. Since her passing on Thursday, the 8th of September, like so many, I have been watching TV coverage of her life. One of the images etched on my mind also is of her broadcast on the 21st of April, 1947 in South Africa. As a princess of the realm, aged only 21, she made a promise to dedicate her life to service. Little did she know at that time that this promise, when she later became queen, would continue to define her reign over the next 70 years. I feel humbled. This woman, who worked until she was 96, I doubt many in this chamber will expect to be doing the same. With 70 years of service to the country and the Commonwealth, she directly and indirectly touched the lives of millions of people, not only in the UK, but around the world. We have learned that during her lifetime, she championed the development of the Commonwealth from a small group of 7 countries to a family of 56 countries spanning every continent of the world. She traveled far and wide, having visited 117 in different countries throughout her reign. Her Majesty was most probably the first British monarch to whom people from all around the world could feel a personal and immediate connection. Her Majesty was globally admired and respected, so it comes as no surprise to see an outpouring of love come in from every corner of the world. As it's been said already, in a world of constant change, she was a steadying presence and a source of comfort and pride to many people. Her late Majesty was the epitome of tolerance, kindness, and compassion. Her Majesty always rose to the occasion when it came to celebrating key events in the UK. And as has already been mentioned, people are still remembering her appearances at the London 2012 Summer Olympics opening ceremony. The Olympics began with a very funny start, thanks to a special cameo by the Queen, alongside Daniel Craig in character as James Bond. Allegedly, she even managed to keep it secret from her own family. And then later on, in a sketch with Paddington Bear during the Platinum Jubilee celebrations, we saw another humorous side to Her Majesty. That sketch showed the Queen offering her customary good humoured hospitality to the clumsy bear and the pulling of a marmalade sandwich out of her handbag. Families and friends, whole communities came together to celebrate her Platinum Jubilee. It was a special time right across Hounslow, and indeed the whole country, that just showed just how much respect and admiration there was for Her Majesty. I will remember those occasions fondly and always reflect on how the celebrations brought so many people together. Her Majesty dedicated her life to this country, and her impeccable public service has been appreciated by millions of people. And a local example of this was her visit to the Sri Guru Singh Sabha Gurdwara in October 2004. Was just one example of her deep and genuine interest in all communities across our nation. Her visit left the local community with a deep sense of recognition and value. And Mr. Mayor, on Sunday, along with yourself, the leader, some cabinet members and other councillors, we attended the remembrance service held at the Gurdwara for Her Majesty. Some members of that management committee I spoke with at that service still remember the visit and speak very fondly about the Queen. And later that day, on Sunday evening, we attended the remembrance service at the Holy Trinity Church. The vicar and other speakers who had met the Queen spoke on how uplifting their meetings were with her. Summing up, Mr. Mayor, Her Majesty the Queen, she was true to her promise and left behind an everlasting legacy of service. She lived her life guided by a deep sense of duty, a duty to her people, her country, and her family. Her legacy will definitely loom large in the pages of British history. My hope now is that we can all take something from the example she set and seek to live our lives with that tolerance, kindness, and compassion. May she rest in peace and long live the King.
Thank you, Councillor Lal. Can Councillor Gabriella Giles please say some few words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I hope you'll forgive me for using my phone. It's got my speech on it. Thank you very much for this honour, and thank you to my group for allowing me to speak. So yesterday, as we paid tribute to our late Sovereign Lady, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and we draw a close on the second Elizabethan era, we heard repeatedly of her exemplary service, dedication and faith in and to the realms she reigned over for 70 years. We have seen an outpouring of love and remembrance, and while my colleagues will pay tribute to the broad reach of her life and the lessons she both taught and continues to teach us, I would like to share a personal story. Her Majesty passed away at the age of 96, the same age as my own grandmother, and despite their 20-year age difference, the two women were cut from the same cloth. Not just the physical, both petite women with white hair, fantastic glasses, and a preference for colour. There was also a keen understanding of family duty, of finding purpose through their faith, and the importance of humour, especially when things didn't go quite according to plan. I know that this comparison to a grandmother is one that many people have made, and yet she was so much more. Her Majesty was the most important woman in the world, the original girl boss, and the first female member of the royal family to enter active service in the armed forces. And these are just a few of those firsts. I first recall in the early 90s how very cool it was that both our monarch and our Prime Minister were women, a mindset that has stayed with me ever since. I certainly didn't know that as that a year later, when I was 7, she would visit a veterans care home and my school would be invited. As you can imagine, there was a great excitement in the school, making sure our summer uniforms were in tip-top shape, all learning to curtsy properly, and the jealousy when several lucky girls were selected to hand Her Majesty a posy. When the big day came, we marched off to the home and we proceeded to wait and wait and wait. Much like yesterday's funeral service, we were all to be in place long before Her Majesty arrived. Unfortunately, on this summer day, and in true English style, the heavens decided to open. Our summer uniforms didn't account for a coat or a blazer, so by the time Her Majesty arrived and started to greet those present, I fear we looked rather like drowned rats. God knows what Her Majesty must have thought on seeing all these children who'd waited patiently for the honour of meeting her. Probably pity. But as she then took the time to work around the assembled party, there was a quiet anticipation as she came closer, never knowing where she was going to stop. And then she stopped in front of me, spoke, and I was able to shake her hand and curtsy. For once in my young life, I had remembered what I needed to do. I don't recall what she said, but it was magic. And it didn't matter that we'd been waiting for 3 hours in the rain. I'd met the Queen and I'd shaken her hand, and I'd managed to stay upright in my curtsy. My WhatsApp chat has been buzzing with special memories of that day. The rain, the excitement, the rain, but most importantly, we had met the Queen. Even so many years later, and knowing that I've been extremely fortunate to have met her on other occasions, the first time will always remain the most impactful. Speaking with friends, family, and residents this week, many have their memories of their presence in our lives. Seeing her at Royal Ascot, garden parties at Buckingham Palace, the excitement of spotting her drive down Stavey Road to see the cherry blossoms in bloom, being told that it was okay to reapply one's lipstick at the dinner table because the Queen had done it at Balmoral, and even how family members had danced with her at parties. One resident reminded me yesterday of a full circle moment relating to the borough. On first arriving into London at Heathrow in 1952, she was driven down Chiswick High Road with flour of her face to hide the tan that she had acquired. Who would have known that over 70 years later, she would once again be driven through Hounslow on her way home to Windsor? The route may have changed slightly, as has the world under her reign, but the love of her people did not. As the Right Reverend David Connor, Dean of Windsor, said in the committal ceremony yesterday, her calm and dignified presence has given us confidence to face the future, as she did with courage and with hope. Courage, hope, and a good sense of humour. God bless Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth, and God save the King.
Thank you very much, Councillor Giles. Can I now ask Councillor Chaudhary, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak here in tribute to Her late Majesty the Queen today. Her Majesty reign spanning over 70 years was a celebration of her leadership, courage, and commitment to duty. She led her nation with exemplary presumption through difficult circumstances while battling with her personal grief. As she's laid to rest, the nation is left with a void that will be extremely difficult to fill. May she rest in peace. All our thoughts in this period of mourning have been with King Charles III and all the royal family as they reflect their loss and grief for a very special woman. But it is also loss for the country. The Queen was loved by this country, a love she created through her dutiful dedication to us, and particularly her respect for the many cultures of the United Kingdom and Commonwealth. She spent her life wanting to visit, learn, and spend time with people in different nations across the world. Faith was so important to her that she would visit many countries across the globe to understand the religion and culture. Locally, she opened a wing in the Gurdwara Alisway in October 2004, like my fellow councillor has said, which is in my ward. It is a sign of how devoted she was to understand the nation she was the queen of, and how generally interested she was in the people who live here. Many people have said in their remembrance of her. She puts you is and she makes you feel important. We are also so proud that the Queen Cottage travelled through our borough yesterday, and it was such an honour for our community to be part of her last journey as she rests now at St George's Chapel, Windsor. People from many different cultures and backgrounds united to show respect. Just as she did in life, the Queen continues to unite people. That is why we loved her, and that's why we will miss her. And at this point, I would like to thank you, all our senior leadership team, all our officers, and everyone who took part to sort everything out for the funeral. I think it was really well organized. Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chaudhary. Councillor Alan Joseph, please.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to reflect Her late Majesty, international relations, and a dedication to the people of the world. Her late Majesty, Queen, was international diplomat, a stateswoman, was very supportive to the people in different countries and especially to the Commonwealth countries. She had heart for the people, very well informed and introverted, with relationships with the Commonwealth countries. I find her public service inspirational, steeped in a sense of duty and service around the world. Her late Majesty had concerns towards international communities. She widely traveled and had major concern for Africa and its developments. This reminds me, she was in Kenya on her international duty when her father died. The Kenyan's president-elect hailed her admirable leadership of the Commonwealth in his tribute message. Her wisdom and knowledge was from the experience in real life. And most importantly, she was accompanied with her husband, Prince Philip, from which she could gain a lot of experience. The volunteer sectors are particularly thankful for a tireless support to an average 600 charities. As we saw in Hong Kong, where the queue was held in huge esteem, 3,000 people stood in the queue for up to 5 hours in up to 35 degrees heat to sign the condolence book. She stood by the democratic principles and upheld people's democracy. As I'm coming from India, I would relate to India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi when he said he will never forget the warmth and kindness. This also reminded of the handkerchief gifted from Mahatma Gandhi that she kept in remembrance of India's father of nation. I would like to recollect Queen's visits to India, particularly to the Tamil Nadu, the southern state of India where I was born. Her visit to Chennai, then called as Madras, many people gathered to receive her, and in Anna Salai, then called as Mount Road, was witnessed from one of the tallest buildings in that area. Also, she was very social to the local people. Celebrated one of her son's first birthday in Chennai by getting the cake from Bosato Bros Bakery, and went on to one of the famous MGR Film City to see the shooting of a Tamil film. I would like to close with the couplets from the famous Tamil language book Tirukural, which read to the Queen. Mureyanappaduvathu kannodadu uyir vaval, meaning rendering impartial justice lies in protection of lives. And also one more, Thondrin Pugalodu Thondruga, meaning be born with fame. Yes, Her late Majesty birth was glorious and reached God's glory gloriously. Thank you, Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor. Thank you for making the world better. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and everyone for the opportunity, and God save the King.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. Now I ask Councillor Croft, Amy Croft, please.
Thank you. I never had the pleasure of meeting the Queen. I did once have the honour to go to Clarence House, and I was astounded when they showed us the itinerary of the then Prince Charles and Camilla, and quite how many active engagements they had in a year, and I think it was something around 800 in a year. That shows a huge level of duty, and all of the tributes that we've heard over the last week or so talk about duty And I think that resonates with us in our positions, and quite how much of her life she gave to duty. Again, unity are themes that we hear quite a lot. Steady presence, and the massive final gift that she gave to everybody yesterday to allow people to come out and watch the funeral procession, which I think was really special. So I don't want to repeat what people have already said, so I wrote a poem instead. So I've called it "Thank You is My Tribute." Thank you for a long life gifted to a duty for us all. Thank you for our spirits lifted when tough times upon us fall. Thank you for not showing favour, though at times so hard to do. Thank you for your gracious nature, steady hand to steer us through. Thank you for unifying people despite political divide. You showed the strength of us together. To that goal we must all strive. Thank you that so many of us shared your final journey home. May your heirs in your great teaching make you proud upon their throne. God save the Queen, long live the King.
Thank you, Councillor Croft. Now I ask Councillor Riaz Gul, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for giving me the opportunity to pay the tribute to the Queen Elizabeth II, the royal family, and the whole nation on this tragic moment. The Queen Elizabeth was the longest serving monarch in the UK history, as she served for the 70 years. She was known and will be remembered forever due to her accomplishment and the qualities. Queen Elizabeth was a true diplomat. Whenever she met any head of the state, she would always put the nation and humanity first. She also played a vital role for the peace in the world. Due to her diplomacy, the world leader felt pride and honor to meet the Queen. No matter there's a politician, sports person, or from the showbiz people, every time everybody admire from her sense of humor. She would always integrate and leave the memories with them. This is the reason today whole nation feels sad and sorrow. Even the little kids have tears in their eyes. Queen Elizabeth was also known and have a dedicated personality. Her dedication will be remembered as she paid her duty and served for the nation on the last day of her life. She had a willingness and ability to develop the monarchy, and this made her more innovative, accessible, heartwarming, yet a strong woman. Love and respect for the Queen were witnessed during last 10 days of mourning, and especially yesterday from London to Windsor and during her funeral passing by the Hounslow. Everyone was out with their kids, roads were packed, and people paid her respect with tears. Her charitable work and support for the various charities for the noble cause and reduce the poverty made her globally charity champion. She lived with smile and left the legacy of the humanity. I have deepest condolences to the royal family. May she rest in peace. God save the King. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gul. Now I ask Councillor Jack Emsley, please, to conclude.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a real honour to be able to conclude, and I'm not sure there's a huge amount more left to be said. As I say, it's a privilege to be able to pay tribute to Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth. It feels almost a bit odd to be here after what was such a draining day yesterday, saying goodbye and grieving for the loss of the rock upon which modern Britain was built. I'm afraid, unlike many colleagues, I don't have a personal story of meeting Her Majesty, but I do hear that up to a third of the UK had the privilege of meeting the Queen over the course of her 70-year reign. Such was her dedication to attending public events and meeting people in all four corners of our country, and as Councillor Joseph rightly said, right across the Commonwealth and beyond. And that theme of dedication to service flowed right through her reign and was prevalent in her funeral service yesterday. In his sermon, the Archbishop of Canterbury declared that people of loving service are rare in any walk of life. Leaders of loving service are still rarer. The grief of this day, felt not only by the late Queen's family, but all around the nation, the Commonwealth, and the world, arises from her abundant life and loving service. As Councillor Rajawat pointed out in the opening speech, we saw that love for the Queen's dedication to service right across the borough earlier this year, as our community celebrated Her late Majesty's Platinum Jubilee, a feat that had never been reached before and may never be reached again. Yesterday, thousands of us lined the streets from Chiswick to Hounslow and beyond to reiterate that gratitude as Her Majesty's coffin passed through the borough, and to say goodbye to a monarch who had served us for 7 decades. Her dedication to us all will leave a lasting legacy, not only in her many charities and patronages, but in the lessons we can all learn from her service. Lessons in humility, lessons in public service, lessons in going out of one's way to carry out their duty, exemplified, as Councillor Thompson rightly said, by Her Majesty working right up until the end, appointing her final Prime Minister just days before her death. All of us here today chose to be here because we want to make our communities better. And in Her late Majesty, we could not have had a better example to follow. As the second Elizabethan era ends, we carry those lessons with us into the dawn of a new era, led by our new King. God bless Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth, and God save the King.
Thank you, Councillor Emsley. Councillor Joanna Biddulph, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm grateful to be called in extra time. As we've heard, everyone has either very personal memories of meeting Her Majesty the Queen, or very personal feelings about her and her impact on our lives. It isn't only meeting the Queen that made imprints on our minds. Catching a glimpse was enough. Knowing others who met her can also have a lasting impression. Both apply to me. I will never forget the Queen's visit to Bombay, where, as the diary my mother kept for me reveals, 20th of February 1961, Bombay Racecourse to see HM the Queen. Went with Mary and Christo to the children's rally. Mary was my beloved Aya and Christo my best friend. Christo and I, still friends, remember it all vividly. The Queen standing in the back of an open car, her journey around the huge oval racecourse, the joy, the excitement, and I can remember her hat. It was quite a day for a 5-year-old. It was Christo who suggested we go together to line the route on Whitehall as the Queen's coffin processed between Buckingham Palace and Westminster Hall. It was a very deliberate tribute, recalling that we had both been together the first time either of us had seen the Queen. We will never forget either occasion. Among personal memories, there are, for some who are lucky enough, also family stories that will never be forgotten. My uncle Lex, Alexander Sales, commanding officer of the Duke's Scottish RLI regiment, who'd been awarded the Military Cross for his role in Tobruk, danced with the then Princess Elizabeth on her 21st birthday, 21st of June 1947, in Cape Town, at the state president's official residence, Westbrook, Rondebosch, to be precise. Although he didn't sit with the royal family at the dinner party that preceded the dancing, Winsome, his future wife, and mother of my 4 Sales cousins, did, with the King, the Queen, Princess Elizabeth, and Princess Margaret all on the same table. The dance with my uncle Lex must also have been memorable for Princess Elizabeth. He was extremely charming and charismatic. As 5 years later, he was invited to ride in her coronation procession, one of the 4 South Africans in the Queen's Commonwealth Mounted Escort. He was invited by telegram, remember those, with a letter to follow. Of course, he accepted, only to find that there was no horse. He had to scramble to borrow one. Winsome, by then Lex's wife, was invited by Princess Alice to watch to the Abbey for the coronation, but chose instead to sit in the Mall so she could watch Lex ride in the procession. My 4 cousins have a wonderful scrapbook recording all this, the 1947 dinner party table plan, the telegram, photos of Lex standing proudly with his borrowed horse, press cuttings. It's all there in our collective family memory. Those memories were added to when my cousins were told that when the Queen visited Cape Town recently, most recently, she asked if Alexander Sales was there. Sadly, he had died years before. Personal experiences, family stories, and now the borough's part in the funeral procession, enabling so many of us, including me, to line the funeral route to honour the Queen. Thanks are due to all who made it happen here, so we have more stories to tell. I heard today from a resident who stood on the route and took a video. He said, "We watched Her Majesty from Hogarth Roundabout, which was so moving. We stood there for over an hour to get a good view. In the footage, I noticed that my daughter, she's aged about 8, bowed her head down when Her Majesty passed. This was a lifetime memory for us all." The cliche, a hard act to follow, isn't anything like enough. The Queen was an impossible act to follow. Thankfully, we have our unforgettable memories of a remarkable monarch. Long live the King.
Thank you, Councillor Biddulph. Thank you all for your contribution for paying the tributes. Now we also note sad news. Yes, Mr. Chima's family. Thank you. We also note the sad news of death of former councillor Dalbir Singh Chima, who died in August in Toronto, in Canada, at the age of 79. Councillor Chima, who I know some of us in the chambers tonight will remember, was first elected to the council in 1994 as a Labour member of Hounslow Heath ward, which he continued to represent until 2006. Councillor Chima was mayor of London Borough of Hounslow from 2004-05, during which time he also met the Queen, late Elizabeth II, and her husband, Prince Philip, now King, Duke of Edinburgh. When they visited the borough to unveil the newly extended Sikh Gurdwara Singh Sabha at Alice Way in Hounslow. I believe Councillor Chima may have been one of the very few mayors of London Borough of Hounslow who have met the Queen in the borough. Councillor Chima also had a long and distinguished career on the council, sitting on a number of committees, including the Sustainable Development Committee, the Hogarth School Scrutiny Panel, and Central Hounslow Area Committee. He was also a governor of Heathland School. I invite now Councillor Jagdish Sharma, who knew former Councillor Chima very well, to say a few words. Councillor Sharma.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I think I had also to say all these words what you said. I was at the council at that time when in 1994, Councillor Chima was elected from Hounslow Heath ward. He was hard-working member of the council, and people in his ward respected him always, because he was conscientious and always was happy to help people in his ward. In addition to the council work, he also contributed a lot in community affairs. He served on the Gurdwara South Singh Sabha South Hall, which is a great big organization, and people always respected him for his contribution and work which he did. He was a good friend, not only a good friend, but a very dependable friend. And he never let down any of his friends, and always was willing to work and help them. And if we needed any advice, he never was shy about that. He used to come to me often, because there were not many members from the subcontinent, from the Asian community or other communities. But he always used to discuss matters and how to approach to help somebody. So that was always, I think, well appreciated. And community, those people, who not only those who were very thankful to him, I think in my view also, because he served the community at most with his hard work. And so I move this, that the council should know that
previously also there were very good members who worked for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharma. On behalf of all members of the council, I would like to express our sympathies to former Councillor Chima's family and his friends, and in particular his wife Jagdish and his three children Charanjit, Navneet and Rajneet, who are here with us this evening with their two children. Now we should stand for 1 minute and pay silent tribute. Thank you. I would now like to thank all the members who came to my inaugural dinner a while ago. It was lovely to see many councillors and friends enjoying themselves on dance floor. It was also a charity fundraising event by my mayoral charity, Polio and Children in Need. In the end, we raised 7,500. So I would like to thank you all who donated generously. Thank you. Any other announcements? I think Ajmer Garewal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm going to apologise for my phone as well. I promise I'll turn it off straight away after reading this. I know, too bad. We've all had a hectic 10 days, and like you said, it feels really surreal to be here today. But as we all know, Hounslow was on the map yesterday and executed a significant event to support Her Majesty the Queen's funeral and cortege through the borough safely and peacefully. Behind the scenes, a tireless team of extremely hardworking officers and staff went all out to ensure everything went to plan. They worked extensively with key partners and ensured a safe and secure event across our borough. I'd like to thank all those in the council who oversaw our own operations, our partners in Lambton 360, Hounslow Highways, the CCTV team, and over 100 volunteers who were on the ground alongside the police, military, and other key partners. I'm extremely proud, as I'm sure the leader and everybody is, of the work of the council officers, staff, and our residents who came out to recognise the Queen and her life of service. It was a moment of togetherness for our borough and London, and I hope that continues. We were on the global stage and we shone as a borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garewal. Councillor Bhatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do actually have a few announcements to make, about 2 or 3, so I will be quick. Some of these are a little bit old because we didn't have a meeting over the summer. But firstly, I wanted to say that I'm pleased to report that students from across the schools in the borough received some excellent results, both in their GCSE and A-levels this year. The GCSE results, the students received 77.4% of students achieved grade 4 or better in maths and English, outperforming the national average of 71.4%. And similarly, we saw some excellent A-level results with a collective pass rate of 98.3%. So given that we've had a couple of years of real disruption with post-pandemic and lockdown, etc., I think you will agree that that was an excellent result. So I'm sure that you will want to join with me in congratulating every student in Hounslow receiving their GCSE and A-level results. I think they've shown some fantastic resilience and commitment. And I want to say thank you to all the teachers as well in their great effort. So as you know, young people spend a lot of time in school and it's a really important part of their lives. But I also wanted to take this opportunity to remind everybody that in Hounslow, every school now is rated by Ofsted or good or outstanding. And I think we mustn't forget that. That's really important. So the results day were not just limited to young people in the borough. Adult learners also took GCSE examinations with Hounslow's Adult and Community Education Service. And I'm pleased to say that the adult learners recorded a 100% pass rate in both English and Maths GCSEs. So if anybody here wants to do a GCSE, I can direct you to the right place. So continuing on the theme of education, I'm pleased to say that back in the summer, Hounslow Council hosted an official graduation ceremony to celebrate 10 young residents with special educational needs who were completing the council's internship programme. The project is called Project Search and is run in partnership with the council, West Thames College, and a supported employment service called Kaleidoscope. This internship offers young people aged between 17 to 24 an opportunity to sort of train and enter the real world of work and some proper good quality employment. And I'm pleased to say that all of them were very successful. It's been an amazing year for them. And I just wanted to remind everybody that obviously we are hugely committed to ensuring that every young person in the borough has the very best start in life. And these internships is just one example of how we are going to be expanding young people's horizons and aspirations. So finally, Hounslow Council and the NHS work in partnership with an organisation called Positive Behaviour Support, which provide comprehensive support to children with a range of complex health needs, including children with autism and children with disabilities. Their project involves engaging with children and young people and their families who are at risk of crisis and provide support to keep them safe in the community. So, for example, supporting them with their mental health needs and reducing admissions to mental health wards. The partnership was nominated for an award for their services to vulnerable children and families back in July, and I had the pleasure of attending the award. And I can say it was a really great pleasure to see them actually win the award, and they were officially named the winner by the Health and Invest Award judges, which is a very prestigious award in health and social care sector. So this is just something that the judges said. They said, what an amazing service, keeping vulnerable people near and at their homes. And this needs to be showcased and rolled out across the UK. So I think I just wanted to mention that, because this is a great example of our partnership in action, with the service being delivered with, in a very compassionate, skilled and dedicated group of practitioners. And I'd like to thank them all for bringing such meaningful change to some of our most vulnerable in our community. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Barth. Councillor Guy Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a couple of announcements about the council's wholly owned companies and the work that they're doing. Firstly, Lambton Development have now commenced building on the New Road Triangle site in Feltham.
This will provide 124 council homes, brand new, and 42 for rental to key workers at rents they can afford. And that brings the total number of new homes built by Lambton to around 300. In addition, Lambton Investment having acquired about 500 existing homes, mostly let to people nominated by our homeless service and previously in temporary accommodation provided by the council. They are let at truly affordable rents. As for Lambton Leisure, as well as having increased memberships of our leisure centres by well over 100% over the last 12 months or so, and having begun to offer specialised classes for niche groups such as over 65s and diabetes sufferers, they've announced that the Institute of Swimming has launched a Swimming Teachers Academy with Lambton Leisure in a bid to solve a national swimming teacher shortage. There's a real shortage of swimming teachers. If you've got kids, they can't get classes. The Academy will offer local people a chance to retrain and embark on a career as a swimming teacher for just £79, which is a lot less than the £1,000 that course would normally cost. So that's a great opportunity for local people to gain a real shortage skill and also help our young people to learn to swim. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Agenda item 4 is from pages 11 till 91. The minutes from the last meetings. So we held 3 meetings, 1st of March, 31st of May, 14th of June. So can you agree the minutes?
Just a very little correction. On page 27, there's reference to Councillor Gabrielle Childs. I know Councillor Giles is one of our younger members on the group, but she's not a child. So if you could change child to Giles, we'd be very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. So now petitions. Agenda item 5. Councillor Sampson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've received a petition, well, Isworth councillors have received a petition from the residents of Church Street in Isworth. They're asking the council to work in partnership with the police and provide CCTV. This will work. They're hoping that this will eradicate the years of antisocial behaviour that they've been subjected to in that street. So I'll hand the petition to you.
Any other, Councillor Shakil?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I have a petition for the Feltham North, the local resident for the antisocial behavior. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shakil. Councillor Bart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a petition from about 40 residents who are asking the council to permanently close the alleyway between Pates Manor Drive and Burlington Close. This alley has actually been closed because of the redevelopment of Burlington Close, and they're asking for this to be permanent because they've seen a reduction in antisocial behaviour as a result of the alleyway being closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bart. Anyone else? Councillor Garewal.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm representing this petition on behalf of the residents of my ward. The reason being is that they are wishing to have extended hours for a CPZ zone because of illegal parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garewal. We now move to second part of this process. There are two more petitions to be considered this evening, which are number 2 and 7 in appendix to the report.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Mayor. But just quick point of order: we do have one more petition from a resident to be given in today.
Which is it? Yes. Are you presenting it, Councillor Sheen?
I'm not presenting it. The gentleman, I believe, is here tonight to present the petition on swimming aids at Lambton Leisure Centres. If he's not here, but I was told he is going to be here. If he's not here, then I will give my response. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Powell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can everyone hear me, or do I need to crouch a little bit taller than the than the apparatus allows, I think? Good evening, councillors, and thank you for this opportunity to address you on this matter. I hope there are some swimmers among you, although I won't do a poll. My petition, I had one voter over there. My petition is that you require your nominee, Lambton's Leisure, to allow swimming aids to be used in all 3 lanes, slow, medium and fast, of their pools in the borough on every day of the week. Currently, it's only allowed in 1 lane on 2 days of the week. So that you can appreciate the subject matter of my petition, I brought along with me the 3 items in question. This is a centerline snorkel. The tube runs down the center of the face, allowing you to keep your face in the water while practicing your leg kick. It's also good for practicing swimming symmetrically, because people tend to roll one way or the other. We then have the hand paddle, which straps to your hand, increases the surface area of your hand, and therefore increases the resistance against the water, which works your shoulders and arm muscles. Last but not least, we have the training fin. Please don't confuse this with a scuba fin, which is much longer. This only increases the length of the foot by 7 centimeters, increases the width of it and gives flexibility, so that with just your arms outstretched, you can swim at the same speed as other swimmers in your lane without inconveniencing them. It's also very good and recommended by orthopedic surgeons for rehabilitation following hip operations. So a very useful tool. Councillors, in February of this year, the manager of New Chiswick Pool banned these items without any consultation or justification or notification to the monthly paying members of the centre. A number of us who were disaffected by that decision emailed him and made our representations. I had a short meeting with him, after which, sadly, I was none the wiser as to the reasons for the ban, notwithstanding persistent questioning. I offered to do some research as to the practices of other local pools, and the manager said that I would gladly share that research with him, the results of the research, which I said I would do. Some days afterwards, I shared that research that 8 of the 9 local pools allowed swimming aids to be used in adult lane sessions in their pools.
Mr. Powell, 1 minute left.
After protracted correspondence, the manager allowed a slight dispensation to allow swimming aids to be used in just the fast lane on Tuesdays and Fridays of the week, with a view to the relaxation continuing. But by August, no further relaxation had been given, and I asked for further news as to what the feedback was and whether further relaxation could be made, but I have not received a reply despite 2 chasing letters. I ask you, though, to require Lambtons to allow swimming aids to be used in the 3 lanes, slow, medium and fast, 7 days of the week. We're only talking about lane sessions for adults. Thank you very much. Very happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Councillor Shaheen, please.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. I will get your response right away. It's a very quick response you'll get to this petition, although I do appreciate that you were originally going to be coming to speak to the meeting over the summer to present your petition. And there has been quite a bit of back and forth between yourself, between Lambton Leisure, also between myself and between officers and Lambton Leisure regarding this. So the situation has developed over time, and now we've come up with what I really hope you will think is a good compromise solution. So I'm going to give you the statement now verbally, but you will get it in writing as well, which will go into a little bit of the background, some of the developments that have happened, and also the solution that we've come up with. So, as you know, earlier this year, Lambton Leisure's management team at Chiswick New Pool advised customers that they would be enforcing an existing policy restricting the use of all swimming aids, except buoyancy aids, floats, in general and family sessions. Staff were approached by several customers unhappy with this policy, who indicated there was a lack of clarity around the use of swimming aids and some inconsistent implementation. I think your petition ably highlights that. In response to these concerns, Lambton Leisure's management committed to take a full review of this policy. So the review identified that swimming aids increase the likelihood and severity of accidental collisions between customers, and the use of swimming aids such as hand paddles, fins, snorkels can be polarizing between different pool users, resulting in conflict between customers. Such conflicts pull staff away from their duties, including lifeguarding, potentially increasing risk. It is, however, also identified that there were a small number of customers that wished to use swimming aids that were currently prohibited. So, informed by the findings of that review and customer feedback, a revised swim aid policy was implemented on May 25th, 2022, permitting the use of certain types of swim aids during timetabled sessions. The majority of these changes were implemented in late May before the conclusion of the petition. But now we come to where we are today, because we really do appreciate customer feedback. And I know that Lambton Leisure shares that. So therefore, the policy has again been reviewed in light of that continued feedback. So now I can update you on what the new policy will be. During lane swimming sessions, permitted training aids, including training snorkels, handle paddles, pull buoys, and training fins, which are aids predominantly used for performance improvement, are now permitted for use in all swimming lanes. Floats, kickboards, etc. Continue to be permitted in all general and family sessions in lane sessions. Swimming aids, including armbands, arm discs, life jackets for babies and toddlers, and noodles are permitted in general and family swimming sessions. These aids do not create the same risk of collision and provide support for those customers looking for additional stability and support whilst exercising in the pool. Members of the aquatics team at Lambton Leisure will continue to offer their users free expert advice, providing support for those residents wishing to develop their swimming technique without the use of swimming aids. We acknowledge that the policy does not allow for the open use of all swimming aids in all pools, but it is an approach which allows all pool users to safely enjoy these facilities. And I hope that you'll agree that the permission of swimming aids in all lanes now will be an effective compromise.
Thank you very much. Could I just ask you to clarify the days of the week on which swimming aids will be used? Because for some reason, they can only be used on Tuesdays and Fridays, but during the rest of the week, they're presumably extremely dangerous.
Mr. Paul, this will be after the meeting. Councillor Shaheen will get in touch with you after consulting the officers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
There is another petition which the petitioner is not able to come today. I think we agreed that it will move to November. Thank you. Agenda item 6 now. Corporate plan, delivery plan, and financial strategy. Can I ask Councillor Rajwar to propose the report, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This is a reference back from Cabinet to Borough Council for agreement and adoption. Seems like such a long time ago that we won the election on a manifesto that was very ambitious for Hounslow, and rightly so. Since 2010, we've worked hard for our residents throughout the borough, and we've worked through a crippling pandemic, and yet we maintained our ambition for Hounslow. And luckily for us, that ambition translated very well into a new corporate plan. Other colleagues will speak to their individual areas. You'll see in the report the key parts of the corporate plan. What I would say, Mr. Mayor, in being brief in my introduction, is that the plan is a live plan, and luckily it is very agile. A lot has changed since May, even. We finally have a government, which is great to see. Let's see what they come up with or lack of. We're not sure. We'll wait and see. Supporting this corporate plan and taking on feedback from previous corporate plans is the delivery plan, which details how we're going to deliver it. Again, that is a live document that will change over time, but it gives you a sense of our direction of travel, as well as how we're going to pay for everything. And you'll note that this is supplemented by the midterm financial strategy, which we'll update in November once again. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I move the report formally. It's a good plan, a comprehensive plan, but a live plan as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rajput. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Dunn, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm very proud to be seconding this report tonight. I'm really pleased that the corporate plan that we have come up with since getting elected in May reflects the pledges that we put to the electorate in that election. I'm really pleased that it reflects our ambition for this borough over the next 4 years. On climate and transport, the area that I'm overseeing on Cabinet, the corporate plan builds upon our climate emergency action plan, our air quality action plan, our transport strategy, and our green recovery strategy. We've already achieved so much in this area, such as the decarbonisation of 33 schools and 30 corporate buildings. We've secured over £20 million of funding for decarbonisation, for more decarbonisation of buildings in our borough. We've planted 5,000 trees, increased our recycling rates, and procured 100% renewable energy for our council buildings. Now we have ambitious plans for creating 15-minute neighbourhoods where residents can access all the services and products that they need within a 15-minute active travel journey. Low carbon neighbourhoods will bring in investment at scale, working alongside our communities. This work is informed particularly by our relationship with the UK Climate Change Investment Commission. We're working very closely with them to deliver net zero for cities right across the UK. And it's really great that Hounslow is now seen and acknowledged as a leader in this area, not only for our borough, but across the whole of the UK. This corporate plan, excuse me, take a sip of water. This corporate plan will guide our work to tackle air quality and climate change through our ongoing approach to active travel, through our Cleaner for All project and our Cleaner for Schools project. These will deliver a wider network of air quality monitoring across our borough, as well as practical interventions to improve air quality at these high impact sites. The corporate plan reflects our ambition around public transport and our planned expansion of electric vehicle charging points, which we've been consulting on already this summer. We know that transport emissions make up a third of the borough's carbon emissions, and so the scale of behaviour change required in this area will be significant. there's a role for all of us here. We want to see a 15% reduction in overall traffic levels, as well as a move to less polluting vehicles. I'll be bringing detailed plans on these and other things to Cabinet in the autumn, but I'm also excited about the plans across the corporate plan in other areas, in housing, in community safety, our youth guarantee, to name just a few. So I'm going to stop now and let my colleagues tell you about those. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Councillor Omer, Mohammed Omer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it goes without saying that the corporate plan delivers what matters the most to the people of Hounslow, and not just the people of Hounslow. I think the businesses of Hounslow and the communities. It not only focuses on providing, like my colleagues mentioned, cleaner, greener, and a safer Hounslow, but also a sustainable and striving Hounslow. I mean, to name a few things or to list a few of the things this great plan offers, it ranges from investment of 300 million on estate housing to almost up to, like my colleague Step mentioned, almost up to 50% reduction in carbon emission, 25% reduction in fly tipping. And I mean, I think the list just goes on up to, I think there's 20,000 plantation of new trees, and colleagues already mentioned 5,000 trees have already been planted. There's also opportunities for young people for training, development, learning, and employment. As well as that, there's a huge, I think there's up to 15 million on creation of safer neighborhoods, and also that also includes violence against women and girls in the borough. Also, I think the corporate plan, it's very diverse in that sense. It ranges from, looking after the vulnerable, including asylum seekers. It's also incorporative of the digital inclusion. I mean, the list of the great things it offers goes on. There's also 1,000 more council homes that it offers. I think whilst doing all of this, it also makes sure that we are offering whatever we can to ensure a cost of living is affordable. And I think while this plan is reflective of today and whatever the needs of the communities and businesses of Hounslow, I would like to not only endorse this plan, this glorious plan, I would also like to thumbprint this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Omer. Councillor Shaheen, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very proud of this corporate plan that we're putting forward, and I'll speak just to a little bit of my section of it. You know, when I came into this role as cabinet member for Parking, Parks and Leisure, a few short weeks afterwards, I was horrified by the spate of wildfires that had gripped our parks, which were a severe risk to our borough. But what I was incredibly proud of how quickly and how efficiently our Green Space 360 teams, our park rangers and our parks teams snapped into action to make our parks safe for residents and for visitors, and to really secure those, because they are such an asset for our borough. And that's just goes to show why it's so important that we treasure our parks, and why I'm so proud that we're able to put another 5 million into our parks over the course of this administration. And several other people have mentioned it, but that our green pledges also, of course, include planting another 20,000 trees across the next 4 years, which is so important to our green agenda and our climate agenda as well. And as part of all this, I'm very pleased that we'll be bringing forward new policies in the autumn, which you'll see, including the broad-ranging green and blue infrastructure strategy, as part of which we hope to see almost 50% of our borough green over the course of this administration. So I'm incredibly proud, very excited about the next 4 years, and very pleased to support this corporate plan.
Thank you, Councillor Shaheen. Councillor Peter Thompson, please.
Okay, I'll be very quick. They're funny little things, aren't they, corporate plans? Because in some ways, who could be against them? Every council is going to be greener and cleaner and safer and thriving and livable. And if you look at corporate plans across any authority from any political background, the headlines are much the same. But obviously the detail is within. And I suppose there are aspects here that we would fully support. Again, who would not be happy to build more houses, plant more trees? I haven't seen the 5,000 that popped up. Wherever that forest is, someone needs to let me know over the last few months. But I am genuinely, joking aside, delighted that's going to happen, and all the rest. I suppose our role as an opposition is to scrutinise and keep you to task in terms of, and I'm sure you'd agree this is our role, in terms of delivery. And it really is therefore vitally important that this plan and all the myriad of plans that lie beneath it are in such a format and are easily accessible. So we, but more importantly than us, residents can monitor and keep an eye on. There are aspects within the delivery plan which lack smart targets. We're going to increase, but we don't quite know where we're at and where we're going to be and what the expectation is. We're going to improve survey results about residents' fear of crime. Tremendous, of course we should, but how much would count as success? And again, I'm sure this information is elsewhere, but we need to look into it. Obviously, it is your corporate plan. It comes from your manifesto. You'd be surprised to hear we didn't vote for your manifesto on this side, so you'll be equally surprised that we're not going to vote for this one. I'm delighted that the quality of pictures is improved from this dodgy document with some very strange-looking people all over the borough to what obviously is a more professional-looking corporate document. There was one aspect there which did make me smile, and I'll make a silly point, but then there's a serious point to it. I'm wondering who the intended audience is for these documents. If it purely is an internal document for us as an organisation, then we understand the corporate language and the management spiel and all the rest of it. If it's actually meant for Joe Public, when you turn to page 27, and we are leading with the heart, and we are do new, and we are pass on the power, and we are harness the mix, and we are be a rock, then, you know, I as a teacher, as you know, I do struggle sometimes with understanding what the young people are talking about. But I've never been in a situation before when I don't really understand what we as a local authority are talking about. I think I can work out one or two of these things. I say being a rock and do new are quite beyond me. So that's a flippant point in one sense, but the serious point is this has to be publicly accessible and understandable. So if we are going to have literations of this going into the magazine and the rest of it, please don't do new, lead with the heart. Just drop all that stuff and just talk about the practical things you're going to do. And I say our role will be to critically sort of keep an eye on you and make sure you deliver. It is your corporate plan. And so obviously you got the majority of the election. Well done for that. We had no say in this and no involvement. I did read somewhere on the website, so it must be true, that as part of the manifesto production, many residents in Hounslow received a questionnaire which informed this. Well, it didn't fall through my doorstep, so sadly my comments weren't fed into the manifesto production of the Labour Party. But again, I suppose the serious point is we talk about a listening authority, and I think you do need to listen to this side occasionally. I know there aren't many of us, but quite a few people did vote for us across the entire borough. So we do have a different perspective. We can agree with the headlines. Maybe when we get to the detail, we do have differences. That, after all, is why we have a party system. So I say we will be there. Please try to provide us the information in a way we can access and understand. For those targets, and I get why it might not be in this document, that aren't terribly smart, please give us some figures and some data that we can use to, and along with our colleagues in scrutiny, that we can sort of make sure that you are doing what you want to do ultimately, which is delivering. Otherwise, this will go the way of many corporate plans in the past and just sit there and in large part be gathering dust by the time of the next local elections. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Chaudhary, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, as the leader said, that this corporate plan is not to be regarded as shelfware. This is a flexible and active plan which will develop and and move forward. This corporate plan is all about making our borough a great place to live, work, study and invest in. It shows how we can move forward together to make Hounslow a place where people live in good homes, pleasant neighbourhoods, businesses flourish, local people enjoy good quality local jobs, residents and business benefit from a sustainable green borough, and addressing the point people feel safe and, more importantly, feel connected to the communities in which they live and work, that our children reach their full potential, residents have a healthy and active lifestyle, and, perhaps most importantly, residents receive the right help and support they deserve. It is more important than ever that forward-thinking and dynamic councils like Hounslow step up and support residents, shielding them as much as possible from a government who, through arrogance and appalling mismanagement, are causing the worst cost of living crisis in living memory, whilst trying to return working conditions to the Victorian era. As a borough, we are home to 285,000 residents, which is expected to grow to 300,000 by the end of the decade. It is vitally important that people live in good homes, pleasant neighbourhoods, with residents enjoying a quality of life, living in homes that work for them and in communities where they live and thrive. This plan will deliver that. This plan will help secure growth and investment in key areas and locations. It will invest in new public transport, public places and squares and parks, regenerate our local estates. It will strengthen our approach to preventing homelessness, and it will support good quality housing development. Critically, it will ensure people live in a sustainable borough where clean air, green jobs and a good environment improve well-being. This plan will make the borough greener and cleaner, developing smart city technologies to improve the environment, becoming a net carbon zero borough by promoting active and green travel, creating low carbon neighbourhoods, decarbonising council housing, promoting sustainability across the borough, tackling littering and fly tipping. I would urge everyone to support this ambitious plan from an ambitious council, which will make our borough better than ever and give our residents the support they not only expect, but really do deserve. And I would commend this plan to everyone, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. Councillor Canny, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to speak for the local delivery plan, and I would like to. I will look on the following. The plan addresses the following priority need of the resident of Hounslow. The plan addresses the needs of the predicted growth in borough's population. It seeks to meet the housing needs of Hounslow and London plan target by planning for at least 27,000 additional homes in 15 years' time. The plan supports the council in responding to the climate emergency through securing more sustainable and low carbon developments. The plan tackles the worsening affordability crisis in the borough. The plan ensures that the existing employment areas are protected and deliver 14,000 additional jobs of 9,500 jobs in Great West Corridor and 5,500 jobs in the west of borough. The plan will improve the regenerate existing centers such as Feltham Town Centre, including expanding the evening economy to bring in more investment whilst ensuring flexibility so that they can diversify to meet the challenges caused by the changes in shopping habits. The plan would conserve and enhance the historic environment and promote development that celebrate the borough's rich heritage. The plan would complement the council's transport strategy of prioritizing more sustainable movement to reduce car reliance. The plan would facilitate the delivery of high-quality, well-managed parks and open spaces with more multifunctional uses of play and sports. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Canny. Councillor Todd, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know how to break the news really, but some window dressing, I'm afraid. Can I just clarify a couple of points that have been raised already. Councillor Lunn talked about the climate emergency. To date, there have been no PCNs for offences of idling. There are only 2.5 readers in the borough in Chiswick and Brentford, despite this council giving over £1 million last September for this equipment. I could go on that. Interestingly, no member of the cabinet is talking about the financial aspects of this report. Money is power and influence and gets things done. There's a lovely mention at page 150 of the donor economics. What an appropriate title. You need to find a sweet spot between the residents and the council. Well, I think that's quite a tall order, but I just want to stick on to a couple of points. And colleagues have mentioned property, housing, one of the most important matters we deal with. It says so in the cabinet papers, and we don't dissent from that. But I've been doing some work on empty council properties, and these are facts, not speculation. So at the moment, there are, or a month ago, 536 empty council houses. 536. In the period, some have been empty, 472, including 22 from Lambton, have been empty under 2 years. Between 2 and 5 years, 60 have been empty, and over 5 years, 4. Now, you may not be aware that any property empty after 2 years pays a premium council tax. And the yield outstanding at the moment, which has to be paid, is £177,000. The report also mentions 2.7 voids, and that's a very old trick. That's obviously a substantial of temporarily empty properties. And as soon as you see percentages, you know there's a bit of a cover-up here. But I concentrated on property because you'll see in the report that laudably the council is going to buy 20 houses for housing Afghan refugees at a cost of £14 million. Now, I would argue that that cost is totally unnecessary given the huge number of houses we've got. That's a huge sum. And to deprive people living in inadequate premises of housing because it's either incompetence or unable to do, I don't know. You mustn't forget either the work that One Hounslow is doing under Mandy Skinner. They have 89 projects at the moment. There's one overdue at the moment, the parking revenue account, where a saving of £2 million is forecast. Like my leader, I'm concerned about performance measurement. There's none in these papers. We talk about looking after our residents, children and adults. It's very interesting to see on page 143 that our spending on our adults is the lowest in the country, and spending on children is low too. The report mentions our reserves. We all know what reserves are. We put money to one side in case of a rainy day. Now, at the moment, you'll be shocked to learn that we have in the region of £231 million in reserves. This money has to be compliant with the Local Finance Act 1992 and should be used to meet estimated expenditure and when calculating the council tax requirement. It must not be used to supply ongoing spending commitments. I've tested this and I invite the leader. One of the budgets that forms part of this £231 million is under the control of the Chief Executive, Niall Bolger, and the Director of Finance. That budget has 54.9 million for strategic investment. Now, some might suggest that money is parked. I can't link that with that sum, given the minimum reserves the report suggests should be £12.5 million.
Councillor Todd, can you conclude, please?
Okay. I'm sorry I can't go on. I apologise for extending. Lots more has to be done with finance to make sure the money is spent adequately and appropriately, including council assets. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Todd. Councillor Ajmer Garewal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the corporate plan, we've also got safer Hounslow, and safety of residents is paramount. So we're looking into crime levels. Though there have been some serious incidents, I mean, nothing's ever hunky-dory. So on the whole, we in Hounslow know that Hounslow is a safe place, and we have lower than the London average rates of crime levels. But we can't be complacent, and we won't be. A review of enforcement is looking at how we tackle antisocial behaviour and will identify how to further improve our response, working even more effectively with our partners, especially the police. Also, we've got a new area-based partnership approach to tackle crime and antisocial behaviour, focusing on engaging with communities and preventative interventions. Pilots of this are running in Feltham and Ivy Bridge, and they've been very successful. The pilot continues to engage with the different communities living on the estates to understand crime issues. Strategy to reduce violence against women and girls. Dedicated resources prioritising safer streets in partnership working with police and neighbouring boroughs. Work is underway to develop the borough's next violence against women and girls plan for 2022-2025. Also with domestic violence victims, we already provide a wide range of services for victims and their children, and also offer perpetrators specialised counselling provided by council's local voluntary sector organisations. But of course, we'll keep on looking into that. Early intervention with young people and serious crime. We're working on this through initiatives ranging from sporting clubs, mentoring and volunteering opportunities, and are working in partnership with community safety, children, social care, and the police to implement a new area-based model to tackle serious crime. We're also keeping an eye on community tensions, identifying vulnerable individuals, safeguarding and supporting those most at risk of radicalisation. We'll work in collaboration with our diverse communities in the fight against crime. So lots will be happening there, Mr. Mayor, and that's not just saying it. As they say, the corporate plan is there for a reason, and we will deliver. And as they say, the proof is in the pudding. So thank you very much. We will deliver a safer Hounslow.
Thank you, Councillor Garewal. Anyone else wants to speak on this? Councillor Tom Bruce, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I am delighted to be speaking on this and delighted that this is in front of you. I'm delighted that this is the fourth iteration of our manifesto that this Labour group in Hounslow have written, and the fourth iteration of the Council's priorities, outlining Council's priorities for the next 4 years. We've delivered on our priorities 3 times. I have no doubt that we will deliver this time around. I talk about 3 times and 4 times being the time that I've been on the council. Clearly, we've done that for many years prior to that as well, and we shouldn't forget that. It's interesting from the opposition that they say that, well, of course, a corporate plan is just a thing that you do and it sits on a shelf and you don't deliver against. Well, we absolutely, and the residents of this borough, disagree with that. They voted for us again because of the actions we've taken and the delivery that they have seen on the ground. It's not always easy. I acknowledge it's not always perfect. It's not what everyone would want all the time. Absolutely, but that's the nature of things. But our overriding ambition for Hounslow is about how we can deliver for the people and businesses of Hounslow and make things the best that they can be. Councillor Todd talks about the £11 million pounds from the Council House Building Programme in order to house 20 Afghan refugees. Now, he didn't say this, but the implication of his words that don't spend that money, sort out some sort of issue that you've got with council housing, and somehow you won't need to spend that money at all. Well, he knows, because I'm pretty sure he was at the training that we've had, about the hundreds of people that we have on our council housing register already. Not doing this doesn't solve the problem. So we need to spend and invest this money in order to deal with a variety of issues that there are across the housing needs in our borough. We are not alone in that. It's not just in Hounslow that there's this need. This is across the country. This is our answer to dealing with that. There was talk about that there's not enough detail. Well, you can never get the balance right, Councillor Thompson. I mean, he would know from school development plans, what is the audience? The audience is a wide variety of things in those school development plans. Are you talking to the children? Are you talking to the governors? Well, you're talking to everybody. And that's exactly the same with the council's corporate plan. We are trying to talk to everybody and share the ambition that we have, share the plan that we have, share the high-level strategic ideas that we are going to deliver for the residents of our borough. He mentions the values. Those were the values, the 5 phrases he threw away, but those are fundamental to what Hounslow is about and how we are going to deliver on our ambitions. Now, I've recently been involved in the interviews for a director job, the Director of Planning, Building Control and Development Management, I think it was. I apologise to the person who's got the job that I've forgotten his title, and he will be starting in December. But all of the people that came through the doors, to a person, talked about the values. Now, he talked about the values, the best of all of them. And he was impressed and applied for this job because, in part, of the values that we have at this council. He felt that they met with what he wanted to achieve personally and professionally. So they aren't throwaway comments. They explain what they are there. And the work that the One Hounslow project has done over the past 2 or 3 years has shown exactly what they are. Once again, this Labour group is ambitious for Hounslow, and I'm incredibly proud of this corporate plan.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Sharma, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to endorse this positive and very important plan. As part of the corporate plan, a healthier Hounslow is very important as the population is growing, as are health conditions linked to non-activity. It's common knowledge that with good health infrastructure and knowledge alongside exercise, an individual's mental well-being is given a boost. And with the correct amount of physical activity and making choices to change behaviours can reduce conditions such as obesity, heart disease and diabetes. There are also other health benefits by making informed choices to be healthier and live independently and enjoy a fulfilled and prolonged life. By working alongside the NHS, community groups and other healthcare professionals and organisations and partners to encourage healthier lifestyle choices for not only adults but also children, by giving information and signposting to relevant organisations, all within a 15-minute neighbourhood. This is why I'm happy to endorse this plan.
Thank you, Councillor Sharma. Councillor Giles, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Very interesting plan. I'm very excited to see how things will be delivered against this plan. I think it's very interesting to see the conviction of the Labour group behind this. So it's great to know that there is a team that supports this wholeheartedly. I think from my perspective, it's not just about the dressing. I think it's more about the detail. Listening to the debate tonight, you know, child poverty is the same in the borough. It has been for 20 years. This council has been in, or this Labour council has been in place for 12 of those. And as Councillor Bruce mentioned, it's his 4th plan that he's put forward, and fantastic. But I would like to see some of those plans coming to delivery. Looking at safer streets and safer communities and how we make people, or how can we enable people to feel safer. A lot of that is about perception. Why don't we increase street lighting? That isn't in this plan. That's an easy win. We've been asking for it since 2018, as the rates, what, now at 36% less than they were in 2018 or something like that. You know, that's an easy fix to make us feel safer. You know, it's not just about cost cutting. We know that I use this debate, I use this argument in the council budget debate last term. I would have thought things have changed. Like, this is a time where our residents need more support from us, not increases from council tax. If we were really looking to put your money where your mouth is, that's another way. As Councillor Todd said, we've got reserves. We might as well use them. The flood is here. We aren't just waiting for a rainy day, although I seem to be talking about the weather an awful lot today. I'm very glad that there are some new councillors that are speaking on this debate today. It's always very welcome to hear new voices. And I look forward sincerely to seeing how these plans come to light.
Thank you, Councillor Giles. Councillor Bart, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely support the plan. Of course, it reflects our new sort of political priorities. And I think it's really important that we continue to be ambitious for Hounslow. I mean, we've all seen what's happened in the last couple of years. We've had a terrible impact on our local economy, and we've seen falling wages, unemployment, and we've seen some really kind of distressing, kind of deep inequalities that we need to sort of address and focus on. And I think without having a plan and refocusing our priorities, we can't do that effectively. I'm not going to talk about all the things that are in the plan. I actually think, I disagree. I actually think there is enough detail in here. I actually think this is the beginning of our business case. And in terms of my priority, one of the things that I will be doing in my portfolio is the youth skills. And there's already a huge amount of work that is being done behind the scenes. So you will see the results. Obviously, we will be reporting to Cabinet every quarter, which is what we would do anyway. So I'm not entirely sure, as you said, what there is not to like in this plan and why you wouldn't support it. It kind of doesn't make, I'm a bit perplexed, doesn't make a lot of sense there. But I'm really pleased. I think we'll be able to, we need to be there. As the leader said, it's a live document. We need to keep, we can't stand still. We need to keep moving on, and we need to keep making sure that we refocus and support our communities. We're going to be investing 900K in schools. We'll be talking to schools about how that money is going to be invested. We'll be listening to them and taking a lead from them on how they think it will be best meet the needs of young people going forward. So I disagree in terms of there not being enough. It is a plan. And as Councillor Bruce said, values are hugely important. I've seen an amazing amount of work and cultural shift within the council over the last few years in terms of working together as a one Hounslow approach, and that really pleases me. So I think to sort of boo-hoo values is not really appropriate. I think that's really kind of a bit of an insult to all the officers who have worked so hard to make sure that they work together as a council, not in silos, which is what we've always said. We've always wanted all the council services to work together for our residents, which they do. So I will be supporting the plan, and it's a real shame that you won't be either.
Thank you, Councillor Bart. Councillor Rajwat, can you sum up, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm really sad. Oh,
sorry. What point?
Yeah, sorry, Councillor. Councillor Bruce, in his speech, and I respect what he says, but I never said or implied that I was against Afghan housing, Afghans being housed in this property. I was highlighting the fact that if the council property that is not in use was being used, it may have obviated that expenditure.
Just to respond, I agree that Councillor Todd wasn't implying anything about Afghans. It was more about the use of money to provide housing for people. That was the point I was making. So apologies, Councillor Todd, if you felt I was saying that. I fully endorse that.
Thank you. Councillor Rajwat.
was a nice little exchange. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm really sorry that the Tories won't be supporting this plan. And I say very respectfully to Councillor Thompson, on becoming leader of the opposition, you said you would be constructive. And I say to you, with the greatest respect, that your ability to scrutinise and hold us to account doesn't diminish because you support a plan. You can still do it and support this plan. If you like the pillars, there is more work to do. And I say also to you that, as I'm sure you can imagine, if I was to present every single plan that went underneath the corporate plan, you'd have a report about yay big. So there will be detailed business plans that include performance measures, to the point that Councillor Giles made, that will be measured and form part of the monitoring of performance that I will be reporting on as part of my portfolio. On corporate values, a lot's been said about it. I'm very happy to arrange extra training on corporate values for the opposition, if they so wish. They are important. Councillor Bath is absolutely right in her comments, and I'm happy to impart them on you because they are very important and they are the blueprint by which our teams work and how we face outwards to our residents. I'm actually quite pleased that we hold reserves, and I say to Councillor Todd that with reserves, most of them are earmarked, and we will spend them in a prudent way, as you'll see in the Treasury Management report coming forward. But I will say this, it is really lucky that we are holding reserves because, quite frankly, we've had an absent government for so long. So, and I've got no hope from our new Prime Minister of anything changing going forward. So complete shambles there, and we're going to have to go it alone again, as we always do, and very successfully. So, let's summarize where we're at. At its first hurdle, our esteemed opposition falls at the first hurdle. They fall back to their old ways. They would spend all of our reserves because that's the nice thing to do. They'd cut council tax and bankrupt this council. That is all they would do, and they would fail our residents in the biggest cost of living crisis there is going, rather than offering support and solutions. Not a single solution offered tonight, just complaints. They can complain all they like, but there is no plan from them. They had the option of putting in an alternative to this corporate plan, putting in amendments. They've had it on their desk for long enough, but they chose not to. And let's contrast that with an ambitious plan that has vision for our residents and will support them in their time of need. That is the difference a Labour Council makes, and that is why the opposition needs to step up.
Thank you, Councillor Rajwat. So shall we put it to vote then? For? Show of hands, please. Thank you. Against, please. Any abstentions? No. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's move on to agenda item 7, please. So this is Treasury Management Annual Report to be noted 2021-22. Again, Councillor Rajwat to propose the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, a report back from Cabinet on the Treasury Management. This is an annual report that is produced detailing our activity in terms of Treasury Management, borrowing and investments. Pleased to report that everything is going well. As I said just a few moments ago, we are a prudent council. We've always been a prudent council. We've managed money well. We manage our investments well, and they are paying dividends. And that's important because this will help in the delivery of the very ambitious corporate plan and our plans going forward. So I move the report.
Seconder. Councillor Siddiqui. And let's discuss. Councillor Siddiqui.
Yeah, I think I would definitely endorse the Treasury Management principle and practices. It's been very prudent. And I think what it does is it's the underlying sort of, the infrastructure which delivers the corporate plan. It helps us deliver the environmental objectives of the council. It helps us deliver the energy focus of the council in terms of using renewable energy across. It helps us deliver the education all across sort of, age groups, across the child education to adult education to special education needs and everything. So that is a big kind of, support which this prudent treasury management provides us. And I would basically also point out that if you look at the numbers, how the numbers have been divided, it's been mostly done in terms of, keeping a very, very prudent hand on investments and the borrowing. And that has been balanced. And I think when you look at the principles, basically, in terms of how the management has taken place, we have complete faith that going forward, because we are looking at a situation where energy prices are going up as well as the interest rate are going up. But the way the Treasury has managed throughout the COVID and now, I believe we have got complete sort of, I would say, understanding in terms of how we'll manage the next very difficult period coming ahead. But we have faith in the Treasury management team and the plan we have got. So really condemn that we should sort of, support it. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Siddiqui. Councillor Bowring, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I agree with my colleague. This report shows the council manages debt and borrowing well, whilst making fantastic returns on investment and paying down historic debts. And our finances have been maintained in a responsible and prudent manner, well below any significant threshold of risk, notably with interest receivable greater than forecast, interest payable under budget, which cumulatively adds up to the tune of millions and millions of pounds. But the stewardship of our money has not only been measured, but also agile and reactive. Whilst the internal and external pressures have presented themselves, they've been well met, decisively and robustly. Now, it's natural that peaks and troughs will occur in a normal financial cycle. And what matters is not that they exist, which they inexorably will. What matters is how we respond to them. Indeed, challenges will continue to call on finance going forward. That's inevitable. But this report shows that we are able to deal with them in a capable and sustainable way. And colleagues, what's the alternative? We only need to look across the border to a neighbouring Conservative council who, through different financial management, who through different choices, brought themselves to the brink of financial oblivion. Or consider the national government. In 2010, they promised to pay down the nation's debt, but did the exact opposite. In 10 torturous years, borrowing a further 1 trillion with T, literally doubling the national debt. This is before COVID, before furlough. So I welcome this report, but more importantly, I welcome what it shows. That the management of our finances are agile, they are robust, and they are sustainable. Officers and the executive alike deserve both praise and respect for this. And if it isn't painfully clear by now, they have both from me in spades.
Thank you, Councillor Bowring. Councillor Chaudhary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, Councillor Todd.
Yeah, go on then, Johnny.
Do you want him to go first, or are you happy? Okay. So we all know that councils across the country are having to make difficult decisions to ensure our most vulnerable people are protected and supported. And it's something that we as Hounslow Council are having to do despite external pressures. We often think about the cost of living crisis affecting our residents, but actually they also affect councils and businesses. And we're having to look at the inflationary pressures that will be driving this forward. We really want to make sure we have the best value for our taxpayers. As the Chair of Audit and Governance, I welcome this report, and the committee will monitor this and the progress made over the year. And Councillor Bowring mentioned about our neighbours, and I have to mention Spelthorne as well, one of our neighbours who gambled residents' money away on property. So unfortunately, unlike them, well, fortunately for us, but unfortunately for some other councils, we do make, as Councillor Siddiqui said, prudent financial decisions. And I'd like to thank the leader and the people who support the leader, so our chief officers and officers that work with them, for this great paper and great financial insight, something that we're very lucky to have in Hounslow. So thank you.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Chaudhary. Councillor John Todd.
Yeah, I do apologise for speaking in front of you. It's very bad manners. Yeah, I have a question for the leader. I'm very concerned about the lending facility you have with Lambton. I think that there's about 100 million to go. I would like a reassurance from you that it's being monitored. But I noted from your plan papers that the corporate governance there's been a lot of consolidation within the Lambton Empire, that they've set up a new governance board, I suppose is the right title, to monitor their performance. And I'm still shocked to see that only one cabinet member attends that meeting. So it's a combination of dealing with the Treasury report and good governance with Lambton.
Councillor Guy Lambert.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, well, I'll respond to Councillor Todd's comments about Lambton. I'm absolutely delighted that the council, by prudent financial management, by not throwing away our reserves to invest them in the stock market or whatever was proposed by the previous Conservative group, we have the funds to buy, as I say, 500 homes on the market, to let them to people who need homes, to save on our cost of temporary accommodation, and to have solid assets that will stand the council in good stead for the future. So it's prudent. There's been prudent investment in solid housing stock that not only is a good investment for the future, but it also deals with urgent needs that we've got to house people. So I make no apologies at all for investments in housing via the Lambton companies. Furthermore, the council's treasury management has long been an example of good practice, and this is clearly enduring. Total borrowing remains at less than half the operational limit that we've set, despite extensive investment in this housing. It's also pleasing to see that the council's needs have mainly been met by reducing short-term investments, and gross borrowing has hardly increased at all, despite these huge investments that we've been making over the last year or two. So the council has an outstanding finance team, a treasury management report, and this fact is made clear again and again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Councillor Rajwat, can you conclude, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I echo comments, and to Councillor Todd's point, absolutely everything is monitored very closely, and you'll see further reports. I also just want to put my thanks on record to the finance team, Clive, and the Treasury Management team. They do a fantastic job on our behalf and on behalf of the residents, and they really get my thanks and that of the council as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Now I ask the members to note the Treasury Management report. Thank you. Agenda item 8. Local plan reviews, consultations and submissions for part 2 examination. We now have a third reference from the cabinet which members can find from page number 200 to 214. Please note that this report seeks just approval for the plans to go for consultation and then forward to the next stage of the examination process being undertaken by the independent planning inspectors appointment by the Secretary of State. This is a separate independent process which will entail the assessment of the soundness of the policies included within the plan in accordance with the respective statutory criteria. Now I ask Councillor Tom Bruce to propose the report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. As you say, this was something that's gone to Cabinet already and was agreed that by Cabinet that this should go to Council for their approval as well, for us to move to part 2 of the examination on our local plan reviews. You've said quite a lot of the stuff I was about to say. We're specifically talking about the Great West Corridor, in the Brentford and Chiswick area of the borough, and the west of Borough Plan, obviously in the west of the borough in Feltham, Bedfont and Hanworth. And we're looking at the reviews of those two areas against our local plan from 2015 to 2020. The government requires us to review that plan either partially or fully, and we are partially doing it with these two submissions here. There was a lot to be positive about with regards to the first stage. The inspector asked us to reflect on some of those things, to reconsult on the changes that have already been made with regards to the submissions that people have made to the original submission. And we're looking for that response. As the Mayor says, we're looking for responses and people's views on those changes that have been made. I'd be absolutely delighted to receive those personally, but I think the best course of this is to send it in the right direction towards the inspector when that consultation opens, I believe, early next month, for about 6 weeks. I would encourage everybody here and anyone listening as well, and anyone in the borough, to get involved in that, particularly those people that are affected directly in the Great West Corridor and in the west of the borough. But anybody should have a say if they feel they should, and have a view on these two very important areas of our borough. It's how we're supporting housing, how we're supporting businesses, how we're supporting growth, and ultimately links back to our corporate plan about how we're supporting our borough's residents to thrive and do the best they can living here and working here. So I'm very happy to move this report and to hopefully get agreement to move it to the second stage of the consultation and examination.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Do you have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Radford.
Reserve my right to speak, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Peter Thompson.
Right, I thought I was very measured and mild-mannered last time round, but I was accused of all sorts of things. So I'll try very hard to be very clear this time, and I'm not insulting anybody or doing anything strange or wonderful. This is, as Councillor Bruce said, a really, really important document. It will shape the way our borough develops for many years to come. I'm conscious, myself included, that many of us have joined the council mid-process. And I think it beholds, especially the new ones around in this chamber, to make sure we are fully abreast of what's in there, that nothing comes as a surprise. And I would just echo Councillor Bruce's comments, that if we do have comments and observations, that we should really feed them into the process. It's too an important document just for it to arrive back to us in a period of time, and then we say, oh, I didn't realise we were doing X, Y, and Z. It really will shape how Hounslow looks and is for, as I said before, many, many years to come. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Meir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for giving me this opportunity to speak on the local plan. Councillor Bruce has always presented it to the council with panache and careful consideration. As a councillor for Feltham for a number of years, now my ward is in the heart of the West of Borough. This plan sets out exciting proposals for all the residents in the West and is closely aligned to the corporate plan, which we agreed earlier this evening. I was anxious that our greenbelt land was protected whilst at the same time acknowledging the desperate need for homes. This plan does exactly that, as well as ensuring that the need for the station at Bedfont. If we want to encourage people to use public transport, then there must be the means for them to do so. Sadly, none of these proposals are going to come into fruition overnight, but with hard work and commitment in long term, we can achieve everything that we need to do to make this borough even better than it is already. I hope that this plan will be welcomed by all council members here tonight. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Meir. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for giving me the opportunity. As a new councillor, I am really excited about the prospect for my ward and the west of the borough as a whole. Place shaping is really important, and this is what will define our communities and help the outcomes to tie in with the corporate plan. Engagement is crucial, and I am delighted that we will have lots of opportunities to discuss endless possibilities with our residents. If we work with them rather than assuming we know what is best, we know we won't be able to please everyone, but communicating with them, they will undoubtedly. Councillor Bruce, as a councillor for the west of the borough, I look forward to working with you in driving this forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kamran. Councillor Catherine Dunn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I will be very brief. I would like to highlight some of the opportunities in the local plan reviews. The plans for the Great West Corridor, which goes through Brentford, will deliver 9,500 jobs for the borough. As the report says, a plan-led approach is critical to regenerate this area by introducing a mix of uses, boosting public transport provision, delivering high-quality design, and enhancing the public realm. I would like to add that it's also important that we create links from this area, from the Great West Corridor to the residential areas of Brentford and down to the High Street as well. I know that we've got lots of interested citizens in Brentford who have lots of opinions on the things that have been put forward in the plan and plan reviews. I would urge them all to respond to this latest opportunity by taking part in the consultation. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Councillor Mashisho.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to be even more briefer than Councillor Dunn there. This report talks a lot about the reducing the reliance on vehicles and cars, and yet when it comes to our underground stations, there's still no mention of making some of these accesses step-free, and it's disproportionate because it means that our most vulnerable residents, not just in Chiswick, but all over the borough, that need access will be disproportionately disadvantaged because we haven't come up with a way of addressing those matters. Instead, we're trying to drive less car use, but no access to public transport infrastructure. So I will be welcoming the report. However, I'd like to actually critique and scrutinize and ask you guys to come back with something more substantial on addressing that issue for our vulnerable residents across the borough.
Thank you, Councillor Mashisho. Councillor John Stroud, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I move that the question now be put?
I'll second that.
Yes. Yes. Let's vote for. Against. Abstentions.
No vote then.
We'd all finished. It's all been said, and we don't need to. We're not voting because we can't see the point of it. So, but I believe you have voted. The majority said that the vote be put, and we're happy to support the recommendations.
Okay. Carry on then. Just move on. It's carried, yes. It's carried, yes.
Yes, carried.
Agenda item 9.
Sorry, yeah. That's the procedural motion. Yeah, we need to vote on the actual motion. Does Councillor Bruce get the opportunity to sum up?
Okay. Shall we put that to vote then again? Okay. For. Okay. Thank you.
Unanimous, Mr.
Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, annual report of overview and scrutiny 2021-2022. Now I ask Councillor Syed Raza to propose the report, please. It's from page number 215 to 229 on your agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny for this municipal year, with my first substantive meeting of Overview and Scrutiny only weeks behind me, I find myself in the legacy position of introducing the work of the previous committee and the previous Chair, Councillor Danish Said. With council elections have taken place and a fabulous new administration voted in, a new council leader elected, and changes to the committee membership, a great opportunity has enshrined us from the previous year's Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Having read Councillor Said's report, what remains constant is a desire from the scrutineers to do a good job, to hold to account, and to remember that the communities we serve should be front and centre of our thinking. I look forward to updating Borough Council on the work I and my fellow scrutineers achieved this year and next when the 2022-2023 Scrutiny Annual Report comes to Borough Council. Thank you, Mayor. I propose this report.
Thank you, Councillor Raza. Councillor Said.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Raza. When I was appointed to chair the committee, I wanted to create conditions where the Overview and Scrutiny Committee and its panels could work effectively. I very much believe that scrutiny should be able to hold decision makers to account in a capable, coherent and courteous way. The report presented to Borough Council sets out what the committee and its panels focused on across the 2021-22 municipal year. The committee ranged widely from universal services such as recycling to deeply personal social services, such as support for care leavers as they became adults. As Borough Council would expect, we scrutinised the administration's financial plans and February budget and much more besides across our 6 meetings. We also had the opportunity to road test our new scrutiny call-in subcommittees, twice in fact, in August and September. The committee's scrutiny panels, which did not meet during the pandemic, were back in force with Councillor George's Children and Young People Scrutiny panel, beg your pardon, looking at the impact of COVID on young people in the borough. We also had Councillor Lal and his Health and Adult Care panel considering care homes and the impact of the pandemic on social activities in care homes and sheltered schemes. And then, of course, Councillor Chaudhary. She was reviewing housing allocation policies with a housing and environment scrutiny panel. I know the enthusiasm with which the panels went about their work last year, and I'm very pleased to hear that panel recommendations are being shared with the new cabinet members. In the same vein, I'm pleased to note a degree of continuity in the current committee's work programme with equality, diversity and inclusion, as well as the Council's Special Education Needs and Disabilities Service, both coming back to oversee this municipal year. As I say in my report, I hope scrutiny can not only consider what it sees in front of it, but also keeps track of what has gone before. As I look back on the year, I would like to extend my thanks to all our guests who shared their insight and experience with the committee and its panels, and to my fellow scrutineers, including the late Councillor Javed Akhundzada, for their commitment to the process of scrutiny. We always sought to make the case for scrutiny as a critical and courteous friend, and I hope we were able to show the difference good scrutiny could make. In closing, I would like to wish Councillor Raza the very best as he and his committee get to grips with the issues affecting Hounslow and its residents this municipal year. I look forward to hearing his report on the work of the committee and its panels. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Councillor Richard Foote, Dr. Paul Probert, Rachel McCoy, Jaspal Sandhu and Kate Duffy for their support last year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Said. Are you seconding the report? Thank you. we need to extend the standing order for next. Yes, Councillor John Stroud.
Yeah, that was just an excellent summary on the scrutiny. That the question now be put, I move.
I'll second.
This is, Mr. Mayor, just cutting debate. It's disgraceful.
It's been moved and seconded.
It's been moved and seconded.
I know it has. That's cutting debate.
What we should move
on to
to
the
vo-
vote.
move-
without-
let's
Move on to the vote.
move on the vote. Let's vote.
We've already lost half an hour by starting half an hour late, and now twice
Can we move
motions
on to
have
the
been
vote
moved.
on the motion
Yes.
first, please, Mr. Mayor?
Move on to the vote. For the motion.
For the vote which was, yeah.
For the
Procedural motion. Okay, that's carried. No substantive motion, Mr. Mayor. Yeah.
yes, actual motion
That's
for
yeah. Against
against.
one,
No.
one or abstain. So let's start that again. As for the report.
For the report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Against. Abstain. No.
What are you doing?
Agenda item 10, please. Appointment of committees and other bodies.
Noted.
Agenda item 11, decision taken in urgency.
Noted.
Noted. And matter considered under urgency, nothing. Next date of meeting is 29th of November, 2022.
Well done, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Well done.